There we go. Sorry a moment. I had to restart that. Had to restart our live. My connection was a little shoddy. I know, 2025, my mistake. Now, when you said making connections between foundations, maybe think of like routines, responsibility, and you did mention success and giving kind of those positive, I call them, words of affirmation or good job. How
Mhm.
else can routines and responsibilities help to build self-esteem, do you think, in like younger kids? Similar to that success you were talking about. Is there anything you can add to that?
Yeah, it's the positive reinforcement that you may have. For instance, when you see for instance, it's like I noticed how carefully you poured that cup of milk or how you poured the milk. They see that you're paying attention and you're saying that affirmation part of and praising their effort. You focus on the persistence that they're doing. So, you keep working on that puzzle so well, it may build into the part of them saying, maybe let me find another one that's even more challenging. Always use yet after some things and after things. That's my keyword, especially what I love with mindset. It's not perfect yet, but what is perfect a lot of times, and something you said previously also is what is their definition of success? We actually put a connotation on success. Each of us have our own definition of what success is. So helping them see what success, a lot of times they look at as success and failure are opposites. Reframe that mind frame of you can't have success yet until you have quote unquote failure. And I say first attempt in learning when you fail because you don't know how successful where you can go until you try it. The key word is try it. You sit behind that starting line, that fear will how you say like make them stop. They won't even go. They're immobilized. That's what I'm looking for. It immobilizes them. They won't even cross the line. So it's like, can you cross this line? Can you do it? Especially when they see that long road ahead. So that positive reinforcement and that persistence. So, they say with practice and believe. Do you believe you can do it? That's why I like when bringing that in the positive affirmations, because a lot of times a child sometimes, or even, this is throughout your journey as you continually grow and change and understand change is not quote unquote bad. Some people look at change bad, but look at change as its growth. You can't have change, you can't have growth without change. And you're constantly evolving. I think that's something to incorporate when teaching and working with them. You don't want to avoid labeling a lot of times because that label will stick to them. Especially, you know better. What do they know better of? Especially when they feel they did something wrong or they can get apprehensive in telling you the truth about something. Let's say that they may omit some information that comes with that. But I think that positive reinforcement when they're starting to maybe feel shameful in some things is it's okay. We're all learning, and the biggest thing that I see too is relating to yourself. How did you, as we like to say, we paved the path forward for our children or people that we're mentoring so they don't make the same mistakes. Tell them a mistake that you did. Relate so it's okay. Yeah, I did this too, and I can understand why you did it. You may not want to tell me this, or you want to try a different way. Tell them it's okay, and that will actually help them build their confidence more. It will change their mindset. It's okay for like the word mistakes. We say you made a mistake. I use that differently. I always frame it in a positive mindset. So I split the word mistake to mistake. You went down the wrong word. You just took a mistake. So we'll break it off there. So maybe we'll try this road next time. We don't have the right solution for the problem that we're trying to resolve. So I say reframing it that way, they'll give them confidence, like, you know what? That wasn't the best decision, but it was in the right time when I made it. But I still have the opportunity to grow or change and choose something different.
I like that mistake. I like that
Yes.
instead of mistake, because that's definitely sometimes hard, even as adults. Like making those mistakes can like really weigh on, especially your confidence, your success, your insecurities, and it also makes you not want to try again, or you get anxiety, like you said, that fear of
Yes.
trying. But like you said, if you're not changing, you're not growing. That's the nugget of the night for me. Absolutely. Now, when you're thinking of those mistakes, there are a lot of challenges that families may face when trying to teach these habits. Is there anything you could say on maybe some of the challenges that families might face and how they could overcome them? Especially, like I said, mentor lots of youths as well as amazing parents. So I'm sure you can like speak on how could they help overcome those habits or those mistakes? How could they help them work through that mistake and then move on kind of from those mistakes?
I would say a lot of it is working. You'll get overwhelmed. We all get overwhelmed, especially when we want the best for them and we have life. As I say, life is lifing. We have so much going on. Your mind is going 1,000 miles an hour, a second, not a minute. I would say thing is start with yourself and seeing why you're overwhelmed, breaking it down into smaller pieces in these mistakes. What made you go that way? Why did you choose that? Not that it's wrong, but what was your evaluation why you did? I think breaking it down in small pieces, incorporating small routines. But when you're sitting there looking at it and getting overwhelmed, is where is that success? Where is that proud moment you have that you can build on it? Like we said, the mistake, at least I did it. At least I tried it, and I know. Yeah, and sometimes, as I like to say a lot of times too, sometimes what you pray for, what you have blessings for, what you request a lot of times, it doesn't come in that pretty package like under that present under that Christmas tree a lot of times. So it's gonna be disheveled a lot of times, but you work with what you have. Those pieces, what do you have? A lot of times when we're in our minds too, we look at what we don't have. That is like the biggest thing we look at a lot of times. I don't have this, I don't have that. What do you have that you can incorporate that can actually bring down when being overwhelmed? A lot of times, what can you sit there? What life skill that you can try to guide that you can work with your children or even yourself that can actually help develop that more responsible decision making. It could be in academics, relationships, even with kids, food. Help them prepare their own snacks. Go in there, tell them what you need. Like say, make a list, kind of like their little recipe, what they like to eat. What day again? What do you want to do this? I would say, take off your shoulders the weight that you can actually pass. A lot of times it's not the way we want it to be. You want to be so perfect. It has to be this way. Well, it can't be imperfectly perfect and still work. You have to move, I would say, doing that. For instance, I know with, one of my girls, I had to make a lunch one time. It's peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Boy, that sandwich was messy. They put it in a bag. I was like, oh my goodness. But I couldn't say anything. I was like, you did a great job. Of course, it got better, but it helped me. They packed their lunch and they were so proud. And just looking at that moment is like, they did a success. It's something less I had to do, but I can delegate to them. They're willing to do a lot. We just have to open our minds a lot of times and say, it may not look like how I want it to look, but it's done. But they're proud of it and they're going to take it and then they're going to say, I can do it again. How about let me try maybe a different type of sandwich, a turkey sandwich, what they want to take. I can pack some carrots and some apples. And that's how that builds too, but the same as us as parents. You build that way. You build that way too. It's like use yourself, look in the mirror, reflect some of those aspects, some of those tasks that even your own positive reinforcement, because you always want the best, but a lot of times we forget our own self-care. When you're saying in that building part, like what did you need that if you were your child looking at it, what would you tell your child to do? How would you empower? And we have to empower ourselves and take some of that back too. That will bring down some of that overwhelming. And know you are doing the best you can in that moment. Now, when you're slacking, yes, I would say, you're slacking, own it, take that accountability with it, be like, you know what? I could have did that better. For instance, okay, we tell our children a lot of times, clean and pick up your room. Okay, they can look at us and say, well, your office is a mess. How can you tell me to do what you're not even doing? So, hey, we're looking like we're telling them to do it, but we're not doing it ourselves. So they're looking at us, and that can cause some tension sometimes, to be honest, because we're telling them to do something. And it's not always do as I say. A lot of times is, what? We have to say, even though we're older than the parent, a lot of times, like, you're right. I'm asking you to do it. I'm not doing, what? I can do a better job too. And that helps them have power in their voice. They're not being disrespectful, and it all is how you say it, very much so. But you give them their power and their voice, you take it back. You're right. Let's work together. Let's work together. Let's see who can keep it organized the longest. So you always work together to see how, and you can do this in groups, even at work. How the topic relates. But that's how you can actually improve your culture even at work while you're there too.
I like that. See, That's a big one that you mentioned. At least, like for me, just based upon, like I said, my village, I don't have the personal experience, but siblings, friends, there's just all that, so much pressure to be an
Yes.
amazing parent, especially like parent. And you always think, you're always questioning whether you're actually doing a good job and whether you're
Yes.
doing it right. Is this the right thing to do? And again, from experience and what I've seen is people, they take it all on themselves.
They
But
do.
I think that's a great opportunity, like you said, is teaching you some independence, but also releasing some of your burden and not feeling guilty about doing it. Like them taking your laundry. Yes, you're a mother. Yes, you can take care of your children, and laundry might be a part of that. But like you said, they get proud of making that peanut butter sandwich, like making their lunch. And then, especially if it's a habit, they get in the mode, like walking in the kitchen. And that's part of their routine every morning. And then maybe they even want to be included in shopping and grocery shopping because then they get to buy what is for their lunch that they're packing. So
Yep.
then that kind of, you ain't got to think about, oh, what do you want to eat this week, or what do you want for lunch this weekend? Because at least for me, one of the banes of my existence is thinking about what's for dinner or thinking about like what I'm going to cook for dinner. And I couldn't imagine then having to decide on breakfast and then having to decide on the lunch that you're going to pack. So it for sure would take off one of those thoughts that you kind of have to do, and by letting them kind of take responsibility of that. So you're teaching them the confidence, success. They're feeling, once it builds their self-esteem, they're feeling accomplished. And like I said, a big one you said is giving their voice. Sometimes it hurts a little to be humbled when they're pointing out your laundry basket, when you're talking about their laundry basket. So sometimes you just gotta kind of, I like to say, take that L, but you know what? You're right. You say it through your gritted teeth.
I know.
Like, but even better, let's do this together. How about we do my laundry together too? But there's a lot of things that you're doing to try to empowering, but sometimes those missteps or mistakes do happen, and sometimes you accidentally discourage rather than empower. So is there anything you could say to any of those moments, or it happens to everyone when your intentions are one thing but it does not turn out that way? How could they kind of recoup themselves from that moment and those, when they discourage them, and how can they actually like remedy that and continue to kind of empower them when they make those mistakes?
I would say a big thing is reflection. And then when you're feeling that way, for instance, when you're saying you're feeling discouraged, you mentioned of being the best parent possible. You're doing everything you can. It helps to listen to what the person outside your box is saying to you. It may not feel good a lot of times, but I would say keep that open mindset about it. And you know what? Sometimes when you get angry, right, there's a little bit of truth somewhere. There's a little bit of truth somewhere. Something has happened, something has rooted in you that you will actually, quickly respond back, and it'd be a negative, you're angry. Something is triggering that. And to me, is that you have to look at that, because one thing is when we're talking about, children, even working with other people, is they're mirroring sometimes. They're going to meet you at your energy. They're going to, hey, you're giving me this energy, I'm going to meet you this energy. But the thing is, step back sometimes and having that pause, especially when you're feeling discouraged, because it's the intention to make you feel better, make you be better who you are. It's the part I would say that I said the biggest thing that I would say that affects me sometimes is I have such high standards for myself, making sure that I did it. We have to not so much bring our standards down, but it's also give ourselves grace, also empower ourselves. We have self-reliance, but sometimes you forget to ask for help because you don't want to look a certain way. And like sometimes that is the root of it. I don't want to look like I'm weak. I don't want to look like I can't do it. Yes, I'm asking you for help, but sometimes, okay, what did that come from? What did that root from? Did you have an experience of when you asked for help, you didn't get that response that you wanted? But then, okay, you didn't get the response you wanted, but did you address it? Sometimes, especially when we ask for help from our children, the laundry basket thing you're talking about, and we had to say, yeah, you're right, mine is. But even saying, well, now you teach them how to communicate too. You told them they're right, and then it's like, I owned it. you're teaching them accountability and responsibility. You know what? You're right. So how about ask them, can you teach me? Even though you know how, but I'm saying, what, and one big thing is there's more than one way to do things. Maybe their mind and their thinking, even at work too, is their way maybe faster? Is their way maybe better than what you're doing? Even though we say, don't fix is not broke, you can say that, but is it still running efficiently? That part, I think it's the part of taking it, not so much take it personal into heart if you really want to grow, but I think the biggest thing is looking at yourself. And I love to say, use like a piece of art. A mirror shatters on the floor. And what do you see? You see a whole bunch of little pieces. And that's how you feel a lot of times, especially when it's overwhelming, you taking those things in. But actually, those pieces are pieces of you, maybe that you need to leave on that ground there and let go and resolve, or you need to pick those pieces up and just rework your masterpiece of what you actually are. Because the gifts that you have and how unique you are yourselves, no one else can be you. That is the best authentic thing to always remember. No one can be you. No one has the gifts that you have, and no one has what the passion you have inside that you just want to let out and share with the world and even the people around you. So I think that's the biggest thing that I look at when it comes to achievements and how to when it's overwhelming. One thing too is maybe writing it down. What is something that releases? Do you like art? I mean, I'm not a drawer, but I will, as I say, I love abstract art because it's just all different directions and things. But it gets soothing because it gets it out. Even in your thoughts, sometimes just journal and write everything out. Everything that you're feeling to get off your chest. A lot of times when we are so busy in our routines and we actually occupy task instead of dealing with our feelings and our emotions, you never get to tackle it until it's busting out of you. It's like, I keep putting a nail in this closet, but no, it's opening the door because you need to do it now. And it keeps building up and building up. You have to learn how to address that one by one. And the best way to do it is, yes, it's when you're ready to address it, but also know the more you don't address it, the more the outside sometimes bleeds over. And it does get taken out on the closest one that are near you a lot of times. But I think try to take piece by piece, talk to someone that may be able to help you to work through it, or just have someone be a listening ear. And if you can't journal, the other thing I said is, try to record yourself. If all our phones have the recorder on it, sit and talk. When you have no one to talk to, then go back and listen to it and see, gosh, I was feeling that way. Because sometimes we need to hear ourselves. We don't hear ourselves. Some people don't even like hearing your own voice, as now, being recorded or being live a lot of times. You don't look at yourself. Sometimes we look and just look at from in a objective way. What facts can you stick to? But also then look at the subjective. How can I rework this? How can I go on another path to make myself not feel so overwhelmed, but I can still move forward? Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Aren't you over here empowering me? Yes. So there's only one me. I only have one skill, but that's
No, many skills, many skills,
many skills. Yes.
many skills
But
and
that
gifts.
is 100, you're 100% right. And that even, like I said, as adults, that self-reflection piece
Yes.
sometimes is often forgotten, but even more so when it's coming to interactions, especially with their kids. It definitely, like me in the classroom when I'm trying to teach somebody something, or I'm trying to teach a concept to them, and we're just not like clicking. What I'm trying to explain, they're just not getting it. So I have to stop and think, one, where's the place that I'm coming from and my own place of understanding? Because a lot of times you've lived so much life, there are a lot of things you learned, and you don't realize all of those little things that you learned and how it was all the way in the beginning. So you kind of have to like reflect. And then also, am I being frustrated? Like if they're starting to get discouraged, am I expressing frustration? You got to take that breath. So definitely self-reflection is probably one of the biggest, I would say, components, especially in those missteps. When you accidentally discourage someone, just kind of stop, reflect, and not, of course, get defensive because it's not what you meant to do.
Right.
And just understand what actually happened. Then what was the outcome, whether you wanted it to be the outcome or not. And then, okay, how can I see it from their side? And then how could we kind of move forward from there? So when we're talking about moving forward, and now we're kind of in the right mindset, we've got the motivation, we've got them on board, we kind of have them, I could like to say, hooked in to the course that we're trying to go. So when you're thinking of like tips and tricks and resources, how can families start introducing the idea of like goal setting to children in ways that are kind of age appropriate and fun? Because you mentioned a couple in the beginning, like
Mhm.
of laundry, and we even talked about getting stickers and things like that. But when we're thinking of specifically goal setting and kind of making a goal, working towards it in a gym, what are some fun, age appropriate ways that they can introduce that idea to children?
I think one thing, ones is sometimes you can introduce the concept of goal setting depending on, younger ones, but in the form of a story. You can actually make it and imagine like you're an explorer. Like I said, depends on where it is, explore the treasure map. How can you get here? Each X on the treasure map is a goal that you're reaching. And you can actually have them draw their own treasure map. Either people are so imaginative and they want to go, and some of them do that. Sometimes you can, one other thing too is drawing exercises for them to do. I think those goals, depending, I would say even I'll look from a financial pillar. A lot of times we move away from even finances. I think doing some of those, help them. We don't talk about it sometimes as adults because we're actually taking care of the finances and doing, but I think introducing budgeting, those kind of goal settings. One is how would you organize? One thing is how would you organize your toys, before taking a snack, short term for like a younger student, read for 10 minutes every night. Let them pick their favorite book and not so much just read by themselves all the times. If you sit and have them read to you, or even in the car, and this is what I'm saying when it comes to using your time in a progressive manner. Maybe from school, maybe they think reading a book is daunting at bedtime, maybe. How about, hey, let me hear about your day. How about let's reopen this book while we're driving to our next destination? You're driving home. Have them read that 10 minutes in there. You're asking about their day, but let them share the book with you because they're both quick wins for you when you read the book and they feel accomplished and they're not thinking, I got one thing checked off my list and you also got one thing checked off your list. Some homework things, I think. I love the thing, like I said, with the treasure part. I think the biggest thing is consistency breeds confidence when you want to set your goals. I look at goals a lot of times. I like to say milestones because when you're completing those small daily tasks and steps, it proves to the children, it proves to yourself that they can follow through. A lot of people start things they don't complete. They see this, they have the shiny object syndrome sometimes, as I call it. They see this, and this. So it's like, I need you to focus. And that feeling will come through it as that I did do it. I did finish. So that it sparks of I can tackle bigger things. The goal setting also is, I say, the milestones, it incorporates self-reliance. It's I know I want to do this. We may say I want to accomplish in 3 months. That's great. Use it just as an exoskeleton. That these are just my bullet points that I can do it as. Yes, we talk about SMART goals. Those are very good to do. You can have it specific, you have it measurable, you have it timely. Is it associated with what you're doing? Make sure when you do that that you have that small task because how many times do our to-do lists have 20 million things on them? Then we have to prioritize. I like to say the non-negotiables, what I'll say. What do I actually have to do today that is, if I don't do it tomorrow, it's going to be a big deal if I don't do it tomorrow. And that is something that you can help with planning your goals too. But I think one thing when the greater reliance, that's what I was speaking of, is how about let's tackle a puzzle. Look, relate how you're putting a puzzle together relates to challenges. You're trying to find the right piece to go with the right piece in the puzzle. But in the overall thing, we're using the puzzle as a goal to complete. Relate that to some life skills. Now, a lot of us too, we say we don't have time to exercise. Exercise usually is put on the burner a lot of times. While you're sitting and while they're sitting, like I said, use the car ride where you can. While you're sitting in front of maybe some Zoom calls, put a TheraBand on your thighs. Sit there and do butterfly exercises. Sit and march in place. You can march around the house with the kids. Canned food items, boxes, something fun. Do your arm raises. Do that. Is that your goal to be healthy? There's little things to incorporate that you may not think, and it doesn't. The one it's saying the goals too is we look at, let's say, time. I need to do 30 minutes a day. Break that 30 minutes up, those smaller chunks and bite them. I did 5 minutes here. I did 5 minutes there, and your miles. Okay, a lot of people don't think about how much they get up. They get up and they go here. They get up, they sit back down. Those are steps. So it's counting your steps and thinking about it. I think that way will, and how you say it's not this so daunting. Have enthusiasm with you when you do it. That's gonna shift your mindset and moving those goals. But I think it gives a roadmap for your efforts too. That is a big thing. You want that clear target. What am I actually going for? And like I said, I would say biggest thing is break down those big, long to-do lists. Look at it. This is what I have to accomplish for the week. But again, each day, what do I have to get done today? It cannot wait till tomorrow. That's going to be your do or dies, your non-negotiables. Urgent can be for tomorrow. I think that will actually help with the goal setting, helping you move forward. And for the kids, when you want to do things too, is like I said, everyone loves treasure maps and spots. What is their favorite? Who is their favorite character? You know, when they were younger, they love Blue's Clues. What Blue's Clues all the time? Just give them games to do. Dora has a toolbox, asking for the bag. Where is it at? So those are things that incorporate them, that it relates, and they'll be more willing to do it with you, and you won't feel so stressed and overwhelmed too. But it helps your goal is, you may have company coming over. Gosh, I wish they would keep their room clean. Hey, let's put a thing up. How many days can you keep your room clean? Give them stickers, like you said. Those positive reinforcements are their goals, and that helps you feel better too. Even in your life as a parent, well, dig, how many days was I able to self-reflect? How many days did I do my own self-care? How many days do you wanted to do it? So starting on little things that will actually move you forward. But I think also one thing, especially at nighttime, is digressing. Maybe 30 minutes before bed. Some of those goals meaning that to actually have your self-care and self-reflect, and not just as we some come to, we get up, we automatically work. We go to sleep just to get up again, to work again, to start our day. We need to have small pauses of it's okay not to do nothing for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's okay to do those. I think that's what's missed when we're actually making goals and helping us learn how to be great problem solvers. But we eliminate passive observers. We're creating great problem solvers.
I think that was a great point that you made, because I remember when we were talking about goals previously, like I said, a lot of people make goals and they're very big goals. When you're thinking of, say, your future, saving for college, or deciding what career you want, or any future goal you may have, or getting to that particular high school program could even be one of them. Endorsement, especially if say it's a really prestigious STEM program, or you really want to get into this culinary program. How are you going to get into that? A lot of times you make a goal and it's a very large goal. And I think we talked about it before, and you even mentioned it now, that key is like making them in small, actionable items and taking those small bites. Because like I said, the big thing is I think it was last week, we were talking about funding educational goals, the week before last, funding educational goals and different ways you could start saving now. And that's a big one a lot of people face, is saving for their future, whether it's buying a house, buying a car, buying a game system, like whatever goal you have, the goal itself may be large, but like you mentioned, is making them in smaller, actionable amounts to not only achieve it, but to keep that motivation and to build their confidence because they did it. So now they're it makes them want to keep going, like, I can do this. Like I said before, they're going to I could do this. This isn't even that hard. And who knows, the next step they take, it might even be a bigger step, because now they know that they can take those steps.
One thing I like when we're talking about, I just thought about it with SMART goals. One thing that you can do, even that helps people break it down, is the specific part is I will what when you're doing your goals to make them even shorter. Then the measurable will be I'll track, fill in the blank. Then when you have your achievable is this matters to me because. Then you have the relevant. Excuse me. I'm sorry. The achievable was the tools. I'm so sorry. Achievable was the tools. What tools do I have right now? The relevant is why does it matter to me? Because. And then of course the time you put in there is by Friday, fill in the blank. That rewires your brain thinking. Also, specific when they're not really understanding specific. It's just, what will I do today? what I'm going to track this for the measurable. What tools do I have for the achievable? And this is just not tangible. What the intangibles? We forget intangibles a lot of times too. What can I do the intangible? That way, how can I show love? How can I show gratitude? How can I show grace? So a lot of those intangibles and the relevant, it matters to me because, and that invokes the feeling aspect of it because we don't really see why it matters. We just know we got to do it sometimes. And again, that time bound is, by Friday is I'm going to do this by Friday. So I think rewiring it that way with the SMART goals gives some actual steps and moving forward, but it actually has actionable steps that you can achieve and do.
That's something you could write down too, like put it under each, like you said, blank. This matters
Yeah.
to me because blank. And it's another one of those visuals work wonders. So having that visual in front of you and seeing it helps with understanding it and helps understand those goals. And like you said, that especially that time on the bottom of it, you could take those small actionable steps towards that goal. And then you'll just repeat that process kind of for each step that you take. Now, if we're thinking in terms of those connections and helping them in the future,
Mhm.
and we've talked about, the habits, the confidence, sense of agency and responsibility. How can parents start having the conversations that connects kind of what they're learning at home with their future goals? As in, like explaining, hey, making your own lunch now, they built that process, they're enjoying it. Then maybe you want to approach the conversation and make that connection of, you've been doing amazing at making your own lunch. And then how could you kind of connect that to a future goal to have them thinking bigger also of that?
I think it's each success that they have or their reaching their goals is proof in their ability. It's proof to set the target that they're working for. Again, it promotes that feeling of I did it. One thing that I love, because I think it's looking at too, not I think I do know, it's how someone learns, how they give information and how they receive information. Some people need to write and talk. So I think one good thing is maybe a whiteboard. You can split the whiteboard in half, say what you think and what do they think. When I say this to you, what are you hearing? I think that asking the questions, a lot of time we just speak. A lot of times we don't get the feedback from them because they're just listening or they're just agreeing to you. And I think that's that one thing. With that, you actually promote resiliency and adaptability. And they're hearing themselves think. So you're actually making them think more critically because a lot of times they're not thinking critically. They will think sometimes the first thing comes to mind, okay, how about can you give me one other thing that might be able to do it? And like even for ourselves. So it's celebrating the successes, but it's also tackling not just school problems, you're tackling your own problems too. So I think it's just letting them teach you sometimes when you're saying how to start that conversation. Sometimes we'll say, how was your day at school? They'll just say good what to say. So you have to dig a little deeper sometimes. Okay, what is good? What makes your day good? Did you learn something? We ask that too. You see, those are broad. I think digging a little deeper at one question a lot of times is the bullying aspect. We don't ask you say, were you bullied today? Were you picked on? Or did you feel sad at all today or disappointed? It's just a reframing of that. I think that part can help with both aspects why you're starting those conversations because when you get them talking, when you finally get them talking, they will actually start talking. But it thinks how are you talking to, like I like to do now, is that communication. Are they a thinking person? So you got to say, what do you think? Or are they a feelings person that people oriented? You have to learn that between who you are. So it's like, how did that make you feel? A lot of times, what feeling did that make you do? What you do? So it's asking, I think, those just to begin those conversations. It's not what they're used to hearing all the time. It makes them pivot and think about, they're so ready to answer those questions. Like I said, how was school? Good. Oh, it wasn't a good day. And it's like, all right, do you have any homework? We go to those because we're trying to stay on in our routine. Sometimes they do want to. Or a lot of times, can I see your homework? Not to see which ones you got wrong. Let me see, oh, great, you got an A. Are we going to put that up on the counter for adults? We don't show our achievements to them. We're only recognize their achievements. So what achievements can you put up working together? That, I did this today. They're going to learn to appreciate it too, and they're going to ask you now. They're going to mirror you. how was your day? What did you do? So you can start those conversations by being a mirror and a role model for them in essence, but also makes you think too, am I celebrating me also? Because when people don't see you celebrating yourself, it's not they forget, it's just not in their purview for them to see. So those type of conversations, and weekly chats. You can have family meetings and make it a fun thing, What milestones did we do? They want motivation. Use a whiteboard. I'll say, or put like with different days, motivation Monday. We can say testimony Tuesday, or, what test maybe did you have, but what can you give today that might, this challenge I had today, but you know what? It really wasn't a big challenge because I pivoted, someone don't understand pivoted, but I adapted this way. But you know what? I decided this might have worked better. I didn't feel good about that decision at first, but you know what? I still tried it. So it's letting them know that our decision we make, we don't always feel good about it. It's letting them know that that's going on, even with, ourselves, letting ourselves be seen sometimes vulnerable, not the part that makes you so, but you have to show some vulnerability a lot of times. And I think those type of conversations can actually open up more that can help navigate a lot of times that start meeting those goals, that start meeting where they are, but really see what's inside them sometimes to actually come out. And you said the technical colleges and now they're going to college. We say, what do you want to be when you want to grow up? A lot of times, or, what do you see? Take them to those places. See if someone will actually let them, I would say, volunteer. I know depending on the age is how can you help them experience what they may have interest into? So if they want to be a teacher, ask them to act like a teacher one day. Let's role play. Go sit in their favorite type, like if they want to be a gym teacher, if they want to be an English teacher, or maybe they want to be a trainer. Maybe expose them to that environment, or maybe a program that does that. And I know us working with children too, and working with the youth, I expose them to things they may like to give them an aspect to broaden outfit. Someone that maybe know about the information, but then take them to that place. Or, in the library. I mean, even though a lot don't know about card catalog, that's kind of like extinct right now, but it's like they might want to be a librarian. You open up because it takes different skills to do that, but they actually bleed over to other skills that other careers that they may have. Do they want to be an entrepreneur? Some don't even know what an entrepreneur. They want to be their own boss. So expose them that. Those conversations can broaden that too.
I think they made a great point often is we don't always display our accomplishments. And I think that goes a long way, especially if they're working on their own goals. And can I do this? If you're showing them that you're doing and not just chores, I'm washing my clothes, so you're washing your clothes. Also, maybe discuss something you're working on. And then, like you said, when you do your testimonial Tuesday,
Yes.
or what you can talk about,
or Thursday, one of them,
or Thursday, you got options.
One of them.
You can kind of decide and choose, and that self-reflection. You could also mention if you didn't do that well that particular week, because that also shows them you made a mistake too. And you're like, but I could just keep trying. So it also kind of guides them on what to do. One, if they messed up and they kept going, it's okay if I mess up too and do those mistakes, like you said before. And I think more displaying your goals and talking about your goals. And even if you're trying to get to futures and education, is talk about your journey, not just what I used to do when I was a kid and I had to go through this, or I had to walk 20 miles to school,
Right.
Like those kinds of stories. Just think, what, math was really hard for me. Or I just the other day had a conversation with someone at an expo. They said they wanted to be a writer. And they're like, but I don't really like reading. And I was like, you know what? Honestly, I'm going to keep it straight with you. I wasn't a humongous fan of English class until I started reading books that I liked. And I was like, there's a book for everyone. I was like, so you're not just limited to what you have at your, what you have in school or what you're reading for English class.
Right.
So I'm like, start reading anything else you can go to. You got audiobooks, Spotify has books, you got Audible, your library now has like audiobooks and other books that you can kind of borrow. And I told them, I was like, and same thing, I didn't like writing either because it was all just book reports. And I mean, I was like, they have their use. Yes. I was like, they have their use. I was like, but actually, when I got introduced to poetry, seems odd. But there's different types of poetry. I like
Exactly.
so when I got interested in poetry, that's actually when I started enjoying English class. And I started reading more and reflecting on it and then like writing my thoughts. And then my thoughts, I thought it was poetry. It was poetry to me. So that my thoughts were beautiful. So
It could
I
be
started
abstract. It could be
right,
abstract.
right.
And that comes to literary discourse. I loved how you said poetry. Some people don't think about it. I mean, people are doing poetry, they go to maybe the jazz places, or they have music behind them, and they're sing, they're saying it. They're saying the words, they're expressing, and there's music behind it. What ways, I love how you said, I don't like reading, or I don't like writing. Well, do you like doing blogs or vlogs? Look what other ways to help them open their lens. Because a lot of time our lens is clouded by only, what is in front of us, even though we can't see past it. Sometimes we have to, I'll say, let the sun shine in so it gets away that fog. And when we have our own brain fog because it's being held by fear, or I don't have the right tools. You might have the right tools, but you just don't know how to use them right now. And you see that. And I think it's like you said, it's opening up to, you know what? Well, what more about writing? Essays. What type maybe? You maybe not like the structured essay. You might be like the creative writing. So yes, I totally, completely agree with that.
That was, trust me, that was the biggest discovery ever. And now you cannot get a book away from me now. Like once I learned that there were books that I like enjoyed, especially books that I could see myself in, or books that help me like explore different types of perspectives and lives. I now, like I said, I always have a book. Even going to work, I listen to audio books. So there was one point in time where, like I said, English absolute enemy, like public enemy number one. I did not like repeating in a vocabulary, writing it over. Absolutely great skills to have, not downplaying it at all. I did it, but it wasn't as enjoyable. And I didn't feel account. Okay, I finished the book report. I don't want to say I didn't care about it, but I did it, like you said earlier, because you were told to do it. You didn't
Right.
have much ownership or care of like, what you were doing. So I would do it. Even if I excelled in it, it wasn't as meaningful to me because, like I said, that motivation that was there is like I just did, but okay,
Told
I
you
did
to.
what you wanted me to do and I did it well. So when you're, like I said, when you have that agency and ownership of something, that those goals that you're setting, you take those baby steps to accomplish it, it feels even better when you do it. Like if you just learned poetry, you started writing for yourself and you enter it in a contest and do well, that's going to mean a lot more to you because you had, like I said, those choices along the way. You had that voice along the way, and you had ownership of what you were doing. So those accomplishments feel better when they
Mhm.
have kind of that sense of ownership. So we have a few minutes left. However, I always love to end with this at the end of my workshops. The scenario: if there was a family or a parent who wanted to start doing this tomorrow or even
Mhm.
next week, what advice would you give them if they're just kind of starting their journey? What would be like step one that you would suggest to take, or step one, two, and three? Or what's the first things you would advise for them to kind of do if they're just wanting to start doing this?
You mean setting the goals aspect, or
Setting
mindset too?
goals, learning life skills, and kind of building that confidence or building good habits, building that foundation. What's something you
Um,
say actionable?
I would say actionable is the mindset change. I would say mindset change and vulnerability, because you have to start at the core aspect of it to move forward. And it's, how busy are you? Really too busy to take 5 minutes to really look inside you, or really take another inventory, or I like to say, of what you would want to change. So what do you want to change or grow from? I would say start there. What actually is maybe overwhelming you? And one thing that came up that you had mentioned too is, we're thinking so many times we have our children, or even ourselves, is um, when you hear, I don't want to do it. They don't want to do something. And the question we don't always say sometimes is, then what can you do? Those types. So I think a lot of it is reframing the words that you speak sometimes into more positive and critical thinking aspect of it. But they're open-ended questions. Okay, give options with it? Can you do ABC? These are your which one can you do? And you may have one says, I can't do any of them. Well, is, okay, maybe you can't do it completely, but what piece of one can you do? Because it's starting those little steps, and that's starting that resiliency. I would say the next thing is feel good even when you start to feel like you were not good enough, or if you had some setbacks a lot of times, because your setbacks actually push you through to finding solutions a lot of times, because as we said, those mistakes was just, it just wasn't the right path for that problem or concern that you were trying to resolve. So I think that mapping that way, and time makes, instead of time so long, let's break it down to smaller chunks that we can bite, especially things that we want to do. So again, I think it's trying the new activities, but actually taking that real inventory and looking at what's it like to be me on the outside, someone looking at me, what it's like to be me. Take all the stuff that you hear and mindful where it's coming from a lot of times. Yes, where it's coming from. But a lot of times, children don't have a filter either. But I think those things will help you keep moving. It will help you to build your own concrete self-confidence again and ownership of things, teaching those things. How can I own some things that can help me move forward? But also, what can I be vulnerable with actually progress and moving forward in a lot of different things that we're doing in day-to-day activities?
I think that's a great point. Is it all, I don't want to say it's all in your head, but mindset definitely can go a long way when you're thinking of building life skills, building a foundation, as well as setting goals. So I will end there, but I do want to say thank you so much for joining us on our Purposeful Paths, Milestones That Matter for Lifelong Success. So whether your child's in kindergarten or about to start high school, I want everybody to remember that it's like Crystal said, it's the consistent small actions that build a strong foundation for the future. And of course, a huge thank you to our guest, Mr. Morgan, for sharing your incredible insight. And your work in coaching, behavior analysis, as well as youth development is an absolute powerful reminder of the impact that we have when we nurture potentially early on. So I want everybody not to forget to subscribe to our Level Up Texas channel so you don't miss any of our future workshops. And I can't wait to continue this journey with you. So let's keep building and planting those seeds of possibility together. So thanks and gig 'em.